Hello and welcome back to Eddy's Beat Shack, and what we're looking at today is decision theory part 3, and specifically looking at risk appetite models which will allow us to look at things such as maxi-max, maxi-min and then mini-max. Now remember, you should have seen these different types of risk appetites on decision theory part 2, and what we're going to do to illustrate this today is have a look at an example, and our example is based on the bicycle shop. And what we have is Zed and Adrian run a small bicycle shop called Z2A Bicycles. They must order bicycles in for the coming season in quantities of 20 bicycles per order. The cost per bicycle is determined by the amount they order. So if they order more, they actually pay less. So the cost is normally $70 per bicycle if they order 20 at a time. If they order 40 bicycles, it's $67. And then it goes down to $65 if they order 60 bicycles, and then down to $64 if they order 80 bicycles. So the more bicycles they order, the cheaper the cost per bicycle is. The bicycles will be sold for $100 each, and any bicycles left over will then effectively be scrapped at a value of $45. So they're buying them for potentially up to $70, but they can sell them for $100 or scrap them for $45. If Zed and Adrian run out of bicycles during the season, then they will suffer a loss of goodwill among their customers as customers get upset, and they estimate that this goodwill will lead to a loss of $5 per customer who doesn't get exactly what they wanted. So quite a difficult situation for Adrian and Zed to work out. It gets even nastier here, guys, because they can order bicycles in terms of 20, 40, 60 and 80 bicycles, but demand for bicycles is going to be 10, 30, 50 or 70 bicycles. So they can't actually nail it absolutely 100% on the head. Bicycles will probabilities of 20%, 40%, 30% and 10% will be our sales. So we've got a 20% chance of selling 10, 40% chance of selling 30, 30% chance of selling 50, and then a 10% chance of selling 70. Now, we need to come up with what we call actions and then also states of nature. Now, the actions are the things that Adrian and Zed can potentially do. They can decide how many bicycles to order. So they can order 20, 40, 60 or 80 bicycles. They will then have different costs associated with them. And then we can work out the impact of these different actions based on the states of nature. The states of nature are the external factors that we cannot control. So it's the external factors that we cannot control. So you can see demand being very poor or being okay, and then being good, and then being brilliant. So they are our different states of nature. We've got no control over these states of nature, and that's what's really, really important for me to understand. Now, what we're going to do is we are going to create a payoff table, and this payoff table will now allow me to apply my various different decision-making criteria. And what we're going to do is we're going to put this payoff table together, and it looks like this. Boom, loads of information. Oh my word, where on earth are you getting all those numbers from, Ed? Well, I'm going to show you where we picked up some of these numbers from, but not every single one of them. So what we're going to do is we're going to start off by saying that if we've got demand of 10, so here's my demand of 10, and I now decide to buy 20, there's me buying 20. How do we actually derive that number of 50? Well, the way that we derive that number of 50 is as follows. So what we do is we will say that we are going to buy 20 bicycles. We buy them at $70 each, which is $1,400. So that's a negative $1,400 cash flow. Then what we're going to do is we're going to sell 10 bicycles at $100 each. And then we've got 10 bicycles left over. We can then sell them as scrap at $45. That now means we've got a total cost of $1,400. We've then got total income of $1,000 plus the $450, which gives me an overall net positive $50 worth of profits. Working on to the next one. And we'll work through a few of these guys just to make sure you're happy with it. So what we have is demand is 30. We buy 80. So we think it's going to be brilliant. It's not quite as brilliant. So we've bought 80 at $64 each. There's our cost. We then sell 30 bicycles at $100. The other 50 which are left over are then sold at $45. That makes a total income of $3,000 from the normal sales plus $2,250 from the scraps minus the $5,120, which is my cost of purchases. Another working, just to make sure you're totally happy with this, demand is 50, we buy 60. So we're still buying too many at the moment. That now means we buy them at $65 each. We can sell $50 at 50 bicycles at $100. And then we have 10 bicycles left over. We sell those for $45. Give me an overall net profit of $1,550. So things are still looking pretty good. But what I want to do now is show you the negative impact of this goodwill. What now happens is demand is 70, but we only buy 40. So what happens is we buy 40 at $67 each. There's our costs. We now end up selling 40 bicycles because that's all we've got for $100 each. And now we have 30 customers who are really upset with us. And these 30 customers now have an overall value of negative $5 each because of the negative impact of a stock out causing negative goodwill. So there's my customers being upset, the negative 150, give me an overall net profit of 1170. And what that now does is it allows me to produce my total overall payoff table. And my total overall payoff table, just to reiterate it, there it is, exactly the same figures as before. Notice the way that this is set up, please, boys and girls. We've got our actions across the top. We've got our states of nature along the side. That's the easiest way to remember these types of things. Now, once I've got this, now I can work out the different type of risk appetites I have and work out which one I want to go for. So I start with Maxi Max. With regard to Maxi Max, what we're going to do is we're going to look at which is the biggest possible return, and I'm going to pick the one with the biggest possible return. So if I jump back into my payoff table, the one which gives me the biggest maximum return is going to be this figure down here, this 2330, and because it's 2330, I will now buy 80 bicycles. So I think that everything is going to be amazing, so I'm now going to buy bicycles at 80 bicycles and hopefully make $2,330 worth of profit. Now, that isn't always going to be the case. And if your risk appetite is very much risk averse, I'm going to go for Maxi Min. And with regard to Maxi Min, what we do is we look at the worst case scenario. So we're looking at, instead of taking the biggest number under each action, we look at the smallest number under each of our actions. So the smallest number in each column. We then take the best of those smallest numbers. Now, if we were to buy 20 bicycles, 40 bicycles, 60 bicycles, and 80 bicycles, the overall returns are positive 50, then negative, negative, negative. We want to go for the positive 50. And because of that, we now end up purchasing 20 bicycles. So on the back of that, we now purchase 20 bicycles. Okay, Ed, that's Maxi Max and Maxi Min. Brilliant. How about Mini Max Regret? Well, for Mini Max Regret, what I have to do is I need to work out the amount of regret under each of these various different options. Now, if we had a situation whereby demand is actually 10 bicycles, so my demand is 10 bicycles, which one would I want to go for? Which action? I want to go for buying 20 bicycles because it gives me the best possible response. And the best possible response there is a $50 profit. Relate that back to your payoff table from before. If demand was 30 bicycles, which one gives me the best possible profit? The biggest profit comes up at $770 when I purchase 40 bicycles. And this is the first step. Always look at these zeros first. If demand is 50 bicycles, my best profit is at 60 bicycles, which will be $1,550. So I can pop that zero in there. And then the zero here because my overall profit is the best at 2330. Now, let's just pick this demand of 50 to illustrate how these things work out. At a demand of 50, my best return is 1550, which is at buying 60 bicycles. That's 1550. If I purchased 80 bicycles, my actual return would be 1230. So my actual return over here would be 1,230. That's $320 down. So there's $320 worth of regret. Now over here, if I purchased 40 bicycles, my overall profits now come in as 1,270. That gives me a total amount of regret of $280. So it's the best return, which is from this square here, minus the actual return from each of these individual squares. And then I'm looking at the difference. Now with Minimax, what we do is we will look at these regret amounts and we're going to take the smallest amount of regret that we possibly can. So we're going to take the smallest amount of regret that we possibly can. And there's two main ways you can do this. You can actually look at your regret table and simply total all down to the bottom and just say, I will take the action which has got the smallest possible regret over all four of these different actions, all these four different levels of demand. Or what I can do is I can adjust it by the probabilities. And what I've done is I've actually adjusted this by the percentage chances. So I've taken my regret table and then I've multiplied it through by 20%, by 40%, by 30%, and then by 10%. And this now gives me a probability adjusted regret table. That's easy for you to say, Ed. So a probability adjusted regret table. And now all I do is I sum these down and I work out what the overall total figure is at the bottom. And I will pick the number which is the smallest. So I pick 276. So with a probability adjusted regret table, I want to purchase 40 bicycles. So I think 40 bicycles is the best thing to do if I am a sore loser. And remember, Minimax is the sore loser issue because something's happened before that they didn't like and they're a little bit scared about what's going to happen in the future. Hopefully that all makes sense to you, boys and girls. If you're not quite sure exactly what's going on, go back over the payoff table again, crunch all the numbers to make sure you're happy where all the numbers have came from, and then go through the regret table separately afterwards as a separate exercise, and then you can do the probability adjusted regret table as well. Thank you very much for your time and attention. I'll see you all bright-eyed and bushy-tailed on our next Beach Shack edition.